a meaningful and exciting life all your life. Actually, you can have deep within a profound and basic joy, despite all the pain and trouble that life can bring to you. I even believe that we can all have a wonderful state of well-being, mentally, spiritually, and physically. In short, we can all have the true joy of positive living all our days. Now, this is claiming a great deal. But as a preacher of the Christian religion, I couldn't begin to claim what the Bible actually promises. I wouldn't have the imagination to do it. In the 8th chapter of John, the 12th verse, it says, "Whoever will follow me will never walk in darkness, but will forever have the light of life." Now, how can these wonderful results be brought to pass? Number one, I think, is to develop your faith in depth. I don't mean to have faith in the creeds and dogmas or in the rules and regulations, but to have the kind of faith in depth that really and truly believes. Become a great believer, and great things will happen to you. Now, I've been a minister of this church for a long while. And as a result of that, I've known some very wonderful people in this congregation. And I know some very wonderful people today. But I'm thinking of a man who was a regular attendant here in the old days. His name was Branch Rickey. He was probably the greatest baseball man that the national pastime has ever had. His book, The American Diamond, is a classic on the subject. Branch was a totally committed Christian. He was, at one time or other, owner of the St. Louis Cardinals, the old Brooklyn Dodgers, and the Pittsburgh Pirates. It was he who did one of the greatest things that has ever been done in American athletics. He brought black athletes into the national game in the person, first of all, of Jackie Robinson. Jackie was, so Branch told me, of a fiery disposition. But when he called him into his office over in Brooklyn and said to him, "Mr. Robinson, I'm going to bring you onto my team. You're the first black man in the big leagues. And you have to face a great deal of unreasoning, un-Christ-like prejudice. But how you react will determine the future of your race, of the future of athletics, and the future of Christianity in this country. So he said, I've just got to tell it to you, and I don't want to be pious about it. You've got to act like Jesus. And when they shout obscenities at you, you turn the other cheek. Well, Jackie Robinson became an immortal. I'll never forget the day I saw him steal second, third, and home. That's what did it. That park was filled with love that day. Now they've got apartment houses where the old Ebbets Field used to be. I always avoid the neighborhood because I was an avid Dodger fan. Branch was a philosopher. He was a theologian. He was a baseball technician, and to go to the games with him, which I often did, and sat in the president's box, and it's great to go into a game without having to go through the ticket window. His conversation was a blend of philosophy, religion, everything. Sitting over there with him one day, he said, Norman, always preach faith to your people. Tell them to believe in the Lord, to believe in God, to believe in the Holy Spirit, to believe in the Bible, and to believe that with God's help, they can handle any old thing. And he told me a story. He said that many years ago, 50, 60 years ago, there was what they called in those days the Texas League. And the manager of the San Antonio team was a man named Josh Riley, a Catholic, a Christian, and a believer, and a very smart man. His team had lost the first 17 games out of the first 20. And this was surprising because he had 6 men on this team who could bat over 300. But Riley knew that they had what they call in baseball the jinx, which means they'd lost faith in themselves. They didn't expect to win. They didn't expect to get a hit. They expected to lose. They expected not to get a hit. And their expectation was being realized in fact. Now it so happened that in that neighborhood at that time was a preacher by the name of Schlater. And he was a faith healer. And he was getting good results, because everybody believed in Reverend Schlater, and all the sick would gather around him by the thousands, and there were many healings because the people were believers. Psychology is involved in this also. So Joshua Riley, after they'd lost the 17th game, kept them all in the clubhouse, and he said, now boys, I want each of you to give me your 2 best bats, and I'm going to take them away for a while. I'll be gone only an hour or so. I want you all to stay in the clubhouse here until I return. He took all the bats. He put them in a wheelbarrow. He took them over to Reverend Schlater. And he had Reverend Schlater bless the bats. So he came back to the boys in the clubhouse and he said, these are wonderful bats. I've just taken them to Reverend Schlater and he has blessed them. They were excited. They changed immediately. They hammered Dallas, Texas the next day, beat